Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Then push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live at the at the Technovations here. It's the Freight Coach podcast. You guys, the top podcast in transportation. You guys know the rest of the intro, but I got a very special guest for you guys here, Mr. Matt Silver with Greenscreens. And we are just here. Honestly, as always, you guys, we're here just to break it down. So Matt, thank you so much for joining me. Kevin got tied up with some meetings. We were going to do a three-way show here today. I just lost my train of thought with that one.
Could have gone off track.
Real quick. But no, man, I mean, we're out here again, and it's, I love these events the most, being out here and really getting that kind of behind the scenes look on what technologies are emerging out there and everything. And, you guys are talking to brokers all the time and now shippers as well. What are you guys seeing? What are you guys hearing the most about their kind of state of where things are and how things are going?
Yeah, well, obviously shippers are having a better time than brokers as of late, and that's changing. And it's actually interesting hearing from the shippers that they're aware there's going to be a shift change. They're ready. They're planning for it. So hopefully that's good signals for everybody in our side of the market on the brokerage side. But ultimately what they're actually adopting is technology, right? Shippers are getting way more astute. They're getting onto TMSs. Once they get onto TMSs, because there's lower entry points now post-COVID, they're getting and they're adopting that technology. That's leading in kind of further down that tech journey of like, okay, now we want our bids to come in through a connected platform. We want things to go into our portal. We want documentation, right? We want to know who bid what, when, where, why, all of that good stuff. And that obviously gets pushed down into the brokerage world. So for us at Greenscreens, we've connected into a lot of other layers outside of the TMS space. So all of the email automation tools in market, all of the quote automation tools in market, all of the load building automation tools in market. If there's a vertical in this space, we're going to get after it. And I think the interesting part is we're doing all of it at no additional cost to our customer base, just understanding that this helps them get sticky with their shippers.
What are the shippers out there in regards to data, right? Because I feel like data is the one thing that every company wants more of. Are they looking more on, like, they want to see like what regions, what lanes are the most cost effective for them? Are they looking for that kind of ROI to see like, hey, this shipment, hypothetical example, sells for $100,000, it costs us X to transport it. We want to send more into that market. Is that the kind of data that they're looking for
On the shipper side? Yeah, so they're looking at a few things. Primarily, they're trying to understand what have we been doing relative to what is market, right? How have we statistically been performing up against that market space? Are we at it, above it, below it? And then they dive into the individual lanes and factors. Is it a distribution model change, right? Are their customers in geographically advantageous places to their warehousing? Or are they not that sophisticated? Do they just have one central depot and they're sending everything out of there? Where can they take advantage of certain lanes based on time of year or cargo type, things like that? It's really interesting to see how their needs are quite different than our brokerage clients. Obviously, it's a different data set that we're using to pull everything from. It's their own data. We call it the Great Wall of green screens right down the middle of it. So brokerage data doesn't get shared with shippers. Shipper data doesn't get shared with brokers. But within that, they've got their own demands. And again, looking at what have we been doing, and then as they look at future opportunities, should we relocate something geographically, whether it's a distribution point for inbound or outbound? Are there different things that can be consolidated to make full truckload because that becomes more advantageous? And then just as they grow their customer base, where are they and where are the goods going? And then they can change their pricing models relative to the end consumer.
So you have unique experience in the industry. Like, you've been a broker, you've been on the tech side, you've kind of seen multiple sides here. What's been the biggest thing from your perspective now as you guys kind of venture out into the shipper world with your stuff on, like, you're kind of surprised that they didn't already have this in place?
I stopped being surprised in freight a long time ago. Right? Like, nothing surprises me anymore. What does surprise me on the shipper side of the business, and I think it's just relative to, if you think about where the brokerage side was 12, 15 years ago, where there was some good tooling out there, but it was quite expensive, right? The barrier to entry was really, really high. And I think shippers were previously experiencing that, right? You have really big names that have the TMS platforms. And because of that, startup shippers, mid-sized shippers might be using Excel spreadsheets. They might be using something home brewed that they're putting together however they can. But now there's a lot of optionality in their market space, and that's continuing. So I'm a little surprised to see that they didn't have a lot of options previously. And I'm also surprised at who's coming to market and what tools are coming on the shipper side to help better serve them, but be fair about it, right? Every technology company I've talked to in the last couple of years, nobody's goal is to cut anybody out. Nobody's goal is to expose one person's side of the coin to the other. It's just about enabling connection and how do we facilitate transactions better.
Yeah. I think that's, I'm right there with you, but I stopped being surprised a long time ago in this industry. But I think that, as a broker, because obviously that's the only job I've ever really held outside of a phenomenal podcast host. But I think that, for me, it's like when you're going in there, you assume that the other parties have everything, right? Like they should have all of it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I've heard this more in these last couple of years, Matt, than I have in probably the previous 12 in the industry. Shippers are more like, hey, we're not a transportation company. We're not a data company. We're a manufacturer. That's actually why we use those guys, right?
Yep.
So, or why we use you guys. And I think that more brokers and trucking companies need to clean up that back end data source, right? Because I think that as shippers progress, they get more and more access to more and more data. They're going to want to know, like, what are you tracking? What are you seeing out there? Because it's like, again, if you're able to compare, right? Like, I look at it as like, we're all in it to make money. I think that, like, you can kind of avoid.
We're operating businesses.
Yeah, exactly. You can avoid that. Oh, I don't want them to see. I want to be able to bring some data to my customers and say, hey, listen, this is what the on-time percentage is with this shipper who ships a similar lane. And this is where you guys are at. Look at, like, compare those actual metrics for performance, right? Because again, nobody makes money if the freight's sitting on the dock, right? So it's like, if you can bring some of that information out there and you actually have data to back it up, and it's not just a sales rep's opinion, and you can say, hey, look at this, look at the on-time percentage, and it might only be 4 cents more a mile, again, hypothetical example here, that you guys should be paying in that instance. And then you go back to them and you can tell them a story, and then it's backed up with facts as opposed to what my opinion might be.
Right.
I think that's what a true partnership really boils down to, and then again, are you looking at other modes? And that's another thing too. Just because a customer comes to you and says, hey, we need this on this trailer type, are you actually breaking it down? Is that the right trailer type for that shipment? And then and the same thing, transit times too. Is it a 300-mile run that picks up on a Friday and has to deliver on a Monday? Can it ship Thursday to Friday? Where are those style of savings? I think the more you can bring that to the table with, again, data, the people are going to look at you in a completely different light. Like early on in my career, I was opposed to that because, again, man, I'm like, my bonus, my bonus, my bonus, my bonus. And now I'm like, I got to get recurring revenue for the next 12 months. How do I really separate myself out there? And again, that is going to tell a completely different story. And that's what the transportation managers out there can bring to their chief financial officer and say, hey, look at all these numbers.
Yeah.
This is what we should be doing.
Well, there's actually an interesting thing going on too. And we see it on both sides, right? Data. Everybody wanted data. Now everybody, genuinely speaking, has access to data, quality of data, cleanliness of data, actionable insights. That is what like the big focus is right now, because it used to be the race to just like who's got the biggest pot of data. But what we're finding out, especially as people are adopting automation, AI tools, machine learning, all of that has to be fueled by very clean, very strictly governed data sets. And a lot of what's out there isn't filling that void, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of data. It's just messy, clean. Some of it's okay, some of it's not, right? You get a lot of different styles of it. So being able to compound all of your data, make it so that you can see what is the right lane to move on the right type of equipment, when, and then what is happening inside of market cycles and market shifts, local influencing factors, right? We're standing here in Florida where last week, big market influence, right? And then you fast forward, being in northern Florida right now, you would never know anything happened here, right? Like it looks totally fine locally. Things are back, moving, all of that good stuff. Those things can happen even in, middle of Tennessee, right? You could just have somebody in a locale pick up and move a ton of freight one day that's out of character for them, but they actually like surge that market, right? They pull all of the capacity out, and then you have a couple other load opportunities posting at really high marks. So you might have trucks flooding in. And if you don't have the data set that is looking at that in real time, monitoring that and throwing out alerts to the people who need to know about those changes, data doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really good point, right? Because, and again, it's also explained like there's not always a hurricane that can explain an anomaly in a market, right? Sometimes there is just there's a magnitude of different reasons, but you also need to look at that data and realize like, hey, this is a short-term blip. You don't change your entire pricing strategy because there was 3 days of tight capacity in outbound Houston, right? That doesn't mean that there's necessarily a market shift. There just could have been for that day, right? And then that's why, again, that's why I love using your guys' tool as much as I do. Because I mean, full transparency, I literally was quoting loads on my laptop, which is just right over there.
It's the greatest.
Because, that's why people tune into the show, because I actually broker freight and quote freight. But it's like, you pay attention to all of your quotes that you guys throw out there all the time. And this isn't hey, there's a spike, we got to change everything, go out there and rebid and try and get in there. It's like, all right, maybe we got to eat it here in the short term, which you should. If you've quoted that out, you should eat that. And then kind of work through there. And then, but again, you got to pay attention to that stuff over time, because, that's why I hate some of the headlines that I see out there, like, oh, tender rejections at this, or look at this happening in this. Is the market back? No, it's not back. It's not at all. You need that real-time information to get you that, because more times than not, with a lot of the people out there, because not everybody, the majority of people don't have an established book of business. All right. They're building that. Those first loads that they're going to get are going to be in an area that they've never been on freight before, and there's a big difference between a historical, this is what was paid 60 days ago, as opposed to, I need this truck in the next 30 minutes. What is it going to cost me? Right. So it's like, there's a big pricing strategy, and you can look at all the data that's out there. There's a ton of it out there. You can look at it all. But at the end of the day, is that the truck right now? What is that circumstance behind that actual quote?
Well, and looking at the other side, like I always like to swim upstream on a problem. How did your firm get the opportunity to quote that load, right? If the incumbent was moving it and doing it well, you wouldn't have that opportunity. So there's already something's up kind of thing, right? It's like when I was training brokers, right? You never want to take the wind out of their sail, but it's like, hey man, like, why did you get that load? Yeah. Right. Like you called up, they offered you this, one call close kind of opportunity. It's like, how did you get that exactly? Right. Ask the questions of the shipper. What's going on? Why are you having a hard time getting somebody under this? Is it additive to their network? Did somebody else fall off of it? Do you have an opportunity there? And then again, to your point, what is going on local right now, right? Like every truck that's in that market today, what are they charging?
Yeah.
Because it can change just a little bit. Big fan of honor the quotes, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Was just talking with a very big firm around the corner today. And one of their big things was we actually intentionally lose money 3 months out of the year on our annual contracts.
Oh, wow.
And we adhere to it. And they were actually voicing some frustration about a product that they were using relative to how they came up with the number, right? And they're like, we pencil it in where we make money 9 months out of the year. We'll lose, not a lot, but we will honor our bid year round because that's what we said we would do, right? We will uphold that. Customer upholds the volume, we uphold the price. Life is good. That's the arrangement. But they can only, you can only justify dipping down so much. You have to be net positive at the end of that.
Yeah. Is that something that you've seen a shift in where brokers are more interested in tracking a lot of that data to actually see what are their profitable months? Is there I call it the eat it months, where you just kind of wear it. Are you seeing kind of a shift in that as the market kind of stays down like this? Because, in all reality, like I've been saying this a lot, like it might not change. Like this might be it for a while now. Nobody actually knows that. So it's like, how do you make best with the information and the freight that you have? Because anybody out there who's actually dialing and cold calling shippers, there's not a massive need for, I'd love to talk to you right now, right? So it's like, how do you maximize your current opportunities? And are you actually working every opportunity that comes across your desk?
What's interesting with that is relative to the question of like, are they looking at the time frame in which they're maximizing or minimizing margins on loads? What we're seeing a lot of right now is short of a brokerage having a really established BI tool and something that deep dives for them, they're asking for the answer, right? And it's more about what am I doing today that's actually affecting change in our business, and where are we making money, where are we not making money, what are those lanes, what is that customer profile for us, what's our shipper profile that we excel at as a brokerage. And looking into that data set is interesting, and it's something that we offer in our platform, a little self-promotion on that. But it's there, and I've seen a lot of other versions of products where that's not available, or you have to unlock it at the next financial tier, X, Y, and Z reasons why you could get there. But frankly, it's the broker's own data, right? There's things they can do. We're all fans of back in the day. We'd have pivot table galore, right? We could dive in and say like, all right, I want this shipper, not this shipper. I want this type of cargo, not that. But when you do it at scale and you're doing it at volume and your team is working on the relationships, right? Using AI tools or machine learning tools on the side to help the teams accomplish more so they can spend more time building relationships, finding new opportunities, being able to have something running behind the scenes for you that's kind of flagging, this is good, this is not great, focus on this, avoid this. You can actually get to a place where little changes, little purposeful changes over time actually amount to really big, complex solutions at the end of a month, a quarter, a year. And interestingly enough, a lot of the brokerages that we talk to that are thriving right now, which I know is an unpopular thing to say, but there are some that are growing incredibly fast. And they're doing so because they're really honing in on what they do. They're becoming specialists in a certain type of cargo, a certain customer mix, certain region, something.
It's weird. Wait, so you're saying a niche is what they're specializing in? Interesting theory that nobody's ever talked about on this show. But no, man, I think that, and that's another thing I've been really kind of honing in on a lot here is it's very tough to compete on the power lanes, right? Like it's very tough to compete on full truckload anything right now, right? If you're talking dry van, reefer, even in the open deck space, it's extremely competitive because a lot of the larger providers are in with everybody, right? And when these downturns in these markets prolong, they don't walk away from that business, right? Harsh reality out there, you guys. A lot of providers only work with certain customers when the market's down because their larger customers aren't as busy, right? It's just the reality of the real world. But they haven't walked away from that business yet. So it's like, as you're out there and you're trying to establish yourself as a provider, like I'll call it scraps. What scraps can you pick up? And then how do you turn that scrap into a fucking filet mignon? Exactly. And that's how you have to approach it, because that opportunity, you might sit out there and say, hey, I only want to do 53-foot dry van. But what if your customer's like, hey, we have this massive LTL opportunity that we're looking for another provider to step up? As much as I'm about, choosing that niche, but your niche can develop around a new mode that maybe that's where that opportunity is. Like I talk about drayage a lot. I hadn't moved drayage at scale much over my career. I'd done it, but then I had a customer come to me. They're like, hey, we have a lot of containers that are coming in. What can you do? And lo and behold, from this little old podcast, I had some carriers, drayage carriers that I'd worked with in the past, and I had some network connections, got them on the phone, and we've developed that. Like we're moving a lot of drayage right now out of Savannah, like a lot. And so, but that niche was formulated out of opportunity that was presented to me. Fortunately, I'd been doing this for long enough where I know enough people, or I know somebody who knows somebody. Yeah. And that's why it's like with this ecosystem of this show, that's why I want people to see that, right? So they know who to reach out to if that opportunity, if you've been out there banging the phones, and then that, it's an LTL or it's an expedited sprinter van, or maybe it's a multi-drop, milk run or whatever that looks like, that opportunity comes. You can watch this show and know, hey, I can reach out to this person. They'll know, because that's where these niches are really created right now. And then you cement yourself in there. And then those opportunities that say you set out for, that 53-foot drive in, full truckload, whatever that is, eventually that's going to come about. You're already set up with that customer. Who do you think that they're going to go to first? Yeah. Every shipper I'm set up with, guess what? If there's an opportunity that they have that they need help on, who do they go to? They go to their network, their setup providers, before they go outward, right? So it's like sometimes you got to pick up those scraps to really go in and drive that home.
100%. I think there's two really interesting things in this. One is like ask for help, right? Like straight up talk about a network, right? I think between yourself and me, we could turn around and ask anybody in this conference room for advice for our businesses, for our life. What should we be doing? Hey, do you know somebody who could help me with this? And even though there's competitive companies in here, I legitimately was just down the hall handshaking a competitor.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Hope business is going great. But we exchange ideas.
Yeah.
Right? We're all in it to make the industry better. And I don't think anybody's too proud, especially if you turn to them and say, hey, man, I respect what you're doing. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
They're going to help you out. The other side of the coin, I shouldn't say the other side of the coin.
No, I know what you mean.
An additional thought.
Yeah.
When you're looking at brokerages being specialists or finding your niche and expanding on it, it is no different than our experience as a software customer. Our best ideas come from our current users, right? Hey, I wish I didn't have to click this button. I wish I could get this data point. That is exactly the same as us when we refine our product to reflect our customer needs. It's no different than in the brokerage space. Your customer says, hey, I got some drayage. Yeah. I know you're great at doing my dry van, but can you help me out on this?
Yeah.
That's how you become a specialist. Just listen to that feedback, receive it. If there's something you can do, get after it, grow your business.
And that's exactly it, man. I mean, it's all a risk, right? Like no matter what, everything's a risk. The rate you quote is a risk. There's nothing out there that is a certainty in this industry, or in really in any industry at the end of the day. But it's like you have to be like, those opportunities are only going to present themselves if you're out there and you're actually pushing it, right? So like with all of this being said, Matt, you guys talk to brokers a lot. How are they assessing where things are today in regards to investments in technology? Where are they going to go? Are they still hesitant to like, hey, I don't want to invest until the market shifts? Or again, is it back down to the most successful people we're talking to are like, they're all in?
Yeah. So the latter is very true, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's two ways of going about it. You have brokerages out there that are always iterating and adopting new technology. They're always refining that mousetrap to find out what works for their customer mix, for the cargo that they're moving, for the team of people that they have in-house. And what are all the touch points? What are the technologies that come in and out of that tech stack? And how do they put that all together? So we've got those adopters that are always adopters, regardless of market conditions. The other side is definitely the companies that are looking at their spend. We're fourth quarter right now, right? Budget time. Everybody's looking at it. They're going back to their providers and saying, was this technology necessary? Did I get a return on it for what we spent in the last year? And am I going to renew it? Right? That's a big thing. We're very fortunate that we've had a lot of customers come back lately that were prospects.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, we already have a pricing tool. We already have a data set. We already get this. We have an in-house team. Whatever the reasons were, and a lot of those in the last 6 months have come right back to us and said, okay, we've been trying it this way. We understand we need to make a change. We've seen the success that some of your other customers have talked about. We have a lot of advocates out there. We're fortunate in that regard. But the reality of it is like some of this technology works incredibly well, not just ours, but there's a lot of
for sure.
really cool new tools
Yeah.
that are coming that are solving the problems. And some of those problems, again, they could be shipper directed, right? How I want to receive my bids. They could be efficiency gains, right? I don't want to cold quote from email, or I don't want to build loads into my TMS. So I'm using somebody like Vuma or DrumKit. They're using all of these tools to stack their way of getting into today's market and respond to quotes. And with where things are right now, there's a lot of opportunity out there where if you're the first to respond because that shipper is effectively in crisis for coverage, you can earn a lot of business that way. It's just, are you relying on them calling you, sending an email? What's your response time? You know, how fast can you get the response back? And that can be measured very, very quickly. So the adopters for sure. And I'm a big fan. We're working on internally, you know, what are our core values for the next year? What are we focused on as a company? And one of the things that really came to mind for me, and it's something that I've always championed, it's a little corny, but it's like, you know, we're better together. And like everything we do, iterate better the next time you do it, right? You're going to go through a process cycle, development, onboarding a customer, anything it is, always take a moment to reflect back on like, how do we make this better for everybody involved, right? You've got your internal teams affected by it. You've got the customer experience. Like, we did it. How do we do it a little bit better next time we go at it?
Yeah. And I think that, you know, from my perspective, you know, honing down pricing, you know, obviously that's probably outside of how do I sell, it's how do I price freight, right? Like that's kind of the next thing. And, you know, for me, it's like you need to be committed to the fact that it's going to take you, I would realistically say 24 months to get a really good grasp on how freight markets actually work, right? And then you need to look at multiple data sets because, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, you need to find out what is the difference that's going on out there. Is, you know, why is one at, you know, $1.50 a mile, but this one's at $1.25 a mile, right? And then again, you look at that, and then again, the real-time aspect of it. I think, you know, personally, as you're going out there, the best way, like say you don't have money for technology, right? Because, you know, that's a whole other conversation. There's a lot of startups who they want to invest, but they don't have the capital for it, right? For me, the best way, no matter what, is always we pick up the phone and start talking to trucking companies. All right. If you have actual freight for them, they will talk to you. All right. And then you ask them a little bit further questions, right? Hey, are you running this lane often? How many trucks do you have in your fleet? Why are you running this? You know, again, have an actual conversation. I know that that's like a really hard thing these days. Then you can kind of find out, they're going to let you know, right? Because there's trucking companies that are out there that only run specific lanes or only run specific regions. They're not out there just looking for the highest prices. Yes, they want to make money, but they know, like they have that one, you know, Phoenix to Albuquerque, for example. They're Phoenix based. They have a customer that gets them into Albuquerque. All right. They need freight to come back though. They'll come back empty. They'll tell you, again, hypothetical, we will run every single one of these for $1.50 a mile. We have trucks here 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then, you know, boom, and then that's done. But you can go out there and look at all the pricing tools, and it's going to be a higher rate or a lower rate. And then again, that's not the real price that it might move for, right? So that's why I say it takes time. You need to look at multiple data sets. But again, if you're getting started, pick up the phone, find that mom and pop carrier who are just running that lane. And then you know what? Then you have your own internal data set that you can compare with some of the information that's out there. Because you know what? Greenscreens might be $1.49 a mile is what it's showing. And then that carrier is telling you $1.50. Then you know with confidence, you can go out there and prospect shippers and say, hey, if you have this lane, we can do this for you 12 months out of the year.
Yeah. And one of my tricks, since I'm not brokering freight anymore, I'll throw it out there for everybody to steal. Go to Google Maps, go to Street View, buy all of your shippers, look at the MC numbers on the trucks that were there when they did the Street View thing. That's how you find a carrier who actually goes there.
Pro tip right there.
No, I love those things.
Dude, that's exactly it though. And it's like you can go out there and you can find that information out. I use Google Earth for everything. Like I know you guys CRMs, I get all of that, but again, we use Google Earth for everything. Every single customer that we're going after, we go and see how many dock doors do they have. And again, I'm vetting everybody. I'm developing my own customers here. I don't have somebody who's doing all the legwork. And then it's like, hey, Chris, you got to talk to this person. I'm out there trying to find out like, hey, are these guys not worth our time, but like, are these guys going to fit in to what we are actually capable of? All right. Because I have friends of mine that are transportation managers at enterprise shippers. Like they do more freight in a day than some people do in a year. they're not going to work for me right now. I don't have the headcount that can accommodate that.
Right.
So it's like, am I going after the right shippers? Am I going after the right opportunities that if they do call my number and say, hey man, let's talk, I know that I can back that up, because you don't want to get to that finish line and then they're like, if you can't give us $5 million a month or whatever that is, don't call us. And again, like, that's why you got to go a little bit, take a little bit further out there, find this information out, and that's going to help you prospect better. So when you are sitting down at the negotiating table and you are pricing out your freight, you know that it's going to get it done, because that's the worst thing. Because again, are you going to take a loss on it if you're not? Or are you going to give that freight back, right? Like, those are also very real conversations that you have out there.
Yeah. This is becoming like a sales basics course, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, but
how do you walk into a conversation with the most information about the other side of the table, right? Legitimately, there are plenty of people in this industry that have built good careers just cold calling, right?
Yeah.
Dial for dollars, 100 calls a day, get it done. But if you call in and you know everything geographically about what they're doing, how their dock is set up, is their waiting room, you also don't have to, when you get a driver who's like, oh, can I sleep overnight there? Can I do X, Y, and Z? Can I show up early? You can take a look at Street View or Google Earth and know most of the answers to those questions. You'll see it represented in photo form.
No, that's exactly it. Matt, it's always a pleasure to have you on here, man. I wish we could do this more. Once you actually move back to Arizona, we can do one in person here again. But how does anybody reach out to you, man? How does anybody find out more?
I am probably one of the easiest people to find at this point. Hey, come to a conference. I'll be there.
Yes.
At this point, that's become very, very accurate. Otherwise, I'm all over LinkedIn. I'm usually a little light on the comments, but the Matt Silver in freight, you can always email me, silver@greenscreens.ai. Come to our website, greenscreens.ai. Check us out. It's worth it. I promise.
100%. And I can personally vouch for that. Yes, they are a partner of mine on this show, but I actually use their product to bid and win freight, you guys. Win freight that I move every single day in my brokerage. But that's going to be it for today, you guys. We might have a pre-recorded episode for tomorrow, because you know what, you guys, this is the real world, and I'm just going to make it happen, though. There will be a show tomorrow. It might not be live, but it'll be out there as always, you guys. You guys know what to do. If you guys got value, subscribe and share, you guys. Get it out there, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.